Hey everybody. Today I'm going to finish my account of what happened at the University of Tennessee. If you are just getting in now, watch parts 1 through 4 to understand what's going on. So, at the last support meeting, it was just 5 days before Christmas. I had been called into this special meeting, and my intuition told me that this was probably going to be bad, and it was. I was still scared, but this time I worked to assert myself. I thought that they might be planning to kick me out, and I figured that at this point, really, I didn't have a lot to lose. And when I walked in, I said that this department has boundary issues. And one of the professors says, yes, you should pay attention to boundaries. And I said that the support here has not been supportive. And then my advisor told me that I was being held back from Practicum. And he goes on and on about how it's hard for him to say that. This would require an additional year for the degree at a minimum. And I had already shared that I could not afford that. So I asked why, and I was told that it was because of the bad interaction I had had with a student in small group and because of problematic schemas. And I asked for an example of a problematic schema, and my advisor said the schema where I reduce my identity and elevate my values. So, my Buddhism. The other professor then related something I had said that in my small group to the group leader, and that surprised me. Small group is supposed to be confidential, and my group leader might have shared something with the professor, but I had no reason to assume that she wanted it shared back to me like this. But my professor described an event that I had discussed from when I was first in college 30 years ago, where I had gone to the Woolworths in Greensboro just before it was closed down. And she said that I had offended the group leader, who is a black woman. Me being white made it offensive. Now, I don't recall what exactly I said in the group, but I do remember that the Woolworths was the only store that I had found in walking distance of college that had craft yarn. And I was also, a college student, and, I was paying my own way through school, and, any going out of business sale wasn't something I could just blow off. I personally was proud of the history that had been made there, and I had been to lunch counters in my hometown with my black BFF in high school, and I thought it was cool to see where that had all started. So, in the meeting, I was unable to remember the exact exchange, and my professor said that my inability to remember was evidence that I am culturally insensitive. I then talked through the pieces that she had related, and I said that, I didn't eat at the Woolworths, and my professor then cut me off and said that I was doing it again, that this comment about not eating there represented a legalistic thinking pattern. And I said that I'm just trying to remember what I could have said that might have offended the group leader. My professor then reiterated that I have no empathy and that I was terrible at counseling skills. She said that my partner in skills practice was too nice to tell me how bad I was. I restated that as a single mom of 4 kids, financially, I could not afford another year, both paying for school and out of the workforce, and that this was effectively me being kicked out. And my professor said, that's the reality. So I'm overwhelmed, I'm angry, I'm crying now, and it's just all too much. My advisor said that I could appeal, and he listed the steps. I said that this was a spurious gesture, and he said it was real. And I asked how he and my other professor would feel if I was to win the appeal. And my other professor said, "Oh, look at you," with exactly that kind of patronizing tone. My advisor said that he would work to support me, and I said, "How can I appeal without validating your claims that I'm defensive?" And my advisor said, "Oh, you should put that in your appeal. I'm not going to write it for you, but you should include that." He then asked me if I was going to, look at the card, folks. I responded that it makes me angry when he kept asking me that. And I said, "I want you to stop asking that, and I am not, and I haven't been planning to." He responded, "I have to ask that. It's my due diligence if something were to go wrong." The creepiest thing about this was his insistence to keep asking that made me feel like he was suggesting it as an alternative. Not that he was truly interested in my welfare. Again, these people are both licensed counselors teaching counseling. I still feel disgusted thinking about this. Because Christmas was just days away, and the spring semester was starting up only with little more than a week after the administration returned, I didn't have much time to make decisions. And I knew one thing for sure: that environment was toxic. And if there wasn't even one person on the faculty who believed in me, there was no point in making an appeal. Because even if I won the appeal, that still put me back in this environment with an entire department that didn't believe in me. It turned out that the decision to hold me back was unanimous, and I withdrew from the program, and I filed a complaint with the UT Office of Equity and Inclusion almost immediately. I asked for my tuition money back and funds for the personal therapy that I now needed and career coaching. My grades, please remember, were 3 A's and a B+ after all. I was otherwise a wreck at this point. My head felt like it was full of sand, and I had a hard time communicating what happened without breaking down. It was hard to put my experience into words that made sense because the experience didn't make sense. It took me a long time to be able to verbalize it like I'm doing right now. My confidence was beat down. I was afraid of people. I fought with bouts of shame. I was embarrassed, and I felt like I was a failure and that I'd let my kids and myself down. But I also made 3 A's and a B+. It didn't make sense. In the months since, I've educated myself more on critical theories, and I can see more clearly how they were woven into the curriculum, particularly in the assignments where we were often asked to consider or focus on race, sexual orientation, and gender identity, and the values training where the faculty attempted to indoctrinate us to interpret their chorus values of commitment, humility, openness, respect, integrity, and self-awareness in their social justice critical theories way, which I don't agree with. And they emphasized this regardless of our personal beliefs. I now believe what the professors wanted in those support meetings was for me to accept their version of reality, admit that I was inherently a racist bigot because I'm white. No career should require you to internalize shame. My experience with the complaint process leads me to believe that the Office of Equity and Inclusion is also a joke and doesn't take complaints seriously, at least if you're not if you're my color. I also talked to the ombudsman, and I copied the dean and the chancellor with some of my communication when it became clear that they were going to sweep the whole thing under the rug. And I got no response from the chancellor or the dean. And while the ombudsman did get me in contact with the university job placement, at the time, I was still way too much of an emotional wreck to make use of it. So, for anyone wondering, I do have documentation to back this up. While I didn't record my SSP meetings, I did write down all of this that happened, right after I was denied Practicum. And I have emails that support this account. I also have the Counseling Today, which I was required to subscribe to, and that clearly shows the critical theories frame that they're promoting for all counselors, and you can see that in the first video. So this is what taxpayer dollars and all of your tuition is paying for counseling, where you supposedly learn to improve the mental health of others, but what you get is ideological indoctrination. I think that this is a bait and switch with a little traumatization on the side, for me at least. I want to take legal action, I want my tuition back, and I don't want another student to experience what I did, regardless of the color of their skin, who they sleep with, or how they live their gender. I am otherwise still figuring the rest out, and I'm probably going to need a job. I'm a good writer if anybody was looking, and I did get 3 A's and a B+. So, thank you for listening.